Okay. Good day, viewers. I'm Daniel Faithful, and
I'm Molen.
we are members of the Calabar University Medical Student Association, CUMSA, debate, public speaking, essay writing, and quiz club. And today we'll be discussing about a very relevant topic, which is
Xenophobia.
Okay. And while discussing xenophobia, we chose this topic because of it's trending. It's something that bothers
Current society right now. Everybody knows what happens with Nigerians in South Africa. Within the last 2 months, over 90% of Nigerians living there were attacked, their businesses were attacked, they didn't feel safe, the videos were trending. So we felt that on the eve of our anniversary of 59 years as being a nation, this was an important topic we needed to talk about right now.
Okay, so like she said, the reason why the Calabar University Medical Student Association debate, public speaking and essay writing quiz club is doing this is to commemorate Nigeria's 59th anniversary. We understand we have come a long way as a country, being a year shy of our 60th anniversary. So while talking about xenophobia, I'll be discussing the topic under a lot of subheadings. So, Bill, can you just...
The subheadings would include a brief introduction into xenophobia as a term, then we'll talk about historical background, what has happened so far, and then we'll talk about current incidences of xenophobia, what we think is the root cause of xenophobia, what we can do about xenophobia, and of course your teaming conclusion.
Okay, so I don't know if you want to give us a definition on what xenophobia is.
Okay, this is not exactly a standard definition. Going by etymology, xenophobia, xeno meaning alien or foreign, and phobia means fear, loosely translates into fear of foreigners. Now, most times, this fear of foreigners has been interpreted to mean xenophobia must involve acts of violence towards non-indigens in a particular nation.
Okay. She has explained what xenophobia may mean or what xenophobia is. Quite simply, being afraid to the extent where you may want to carry out acts of violence, discrimination against persons you consider strangers or foreigners in a territory that's otherwise inhabited by locals or indigenes, any fragment of society that have established themselves in a particular territory. Okay, xenophobia is not quite strange to us. We'll be relating xenophobia with
to the Nigerian experience right here. Remember sometime in the 90s where anti-Ghanaian sentiments were reigning and Ghana were asked to go, in quote. In fact, the popular Ghana must go back refer back to that time frame where most Ghanaians packed their belongings in such bags and exited the country. Right now, between the space of the last 5 years, Nigerians in South Africa experienced a series of attacks bordering their livelihood in terms of...
South Africa is feeling uncomfortable and being threatened to the extent where they are being bothered that their jobs, their women, their sources of livelihood are being taken away from them by black Nigerians who are willing to perform jobs that they otherwise could have performed, but because they are willing to accept lower pays or salaries. Okay, but we must understand that with the recent development as on social media, we're hearing of news, videos being sent, the situation has been quite controlled in South Africa. We got to know later that there was a bit of misinformation about the crisis that happened in South Africa, about some of the videos being videos of other incidents that might have happened in South Africa, and then with certain captions that increase the fear
in quote. And so the bordering sentiment at that point was that Nigerians were involved in criminal activities, and this was the basis of them being asked to leave. But we must remember that there are laws, and laws are meant to be made, where key officials are honing into the xenophobic sentiments and asking Nigerians to leave with no clear-cut response from our government. And of course, let's remember that Nigerians are very hardworking people, not taking it away from the South Africans whose society is very nascent. They just got their independence in the 90s compared to us that got our independence in the 1960s. And we have been of immense help to them. Regardless of that, we need to tell ourselves the truth and come and talk around on the round table right now. We are tabling a monster, xenophobia. Why is xenophobia happening? Xenophobia is happening because the host population is being threatened. They feel that their opportunities are being taken away from them and they have no other recourse but a violent route. Now, the home population will only be at an advantage if they do not have the means to survive in their own native environment. And bordering the fact that the education in South Africa is quite privileged, most of South Africans are farmers, and most of South Africa's mining corporations, their entertainment industries are still being run by the whites. So we can argue that though they are slaves, they are free, they are still in chains because they do not have any economic power. And then again, even if we remove the fact that their livelihoods have been taken away from them, rape, South Africa is the leading country with AIDS in the world. In fact, it's part of their cultures to believe that if you rape a virgin, you get free of HIV and AIDS. Now, if you bring that to bear, over a month ago, a 9-year-old South African girl was raped, killed, and dumped in a latrine. An 18-year-old university student on her way to the post office was raped and brutally murdered. And the shocking thing is that this happened around 2 p.m. in the afternoon, where between her dormitory and the post office is a police station. Yet we've not had any official response from the authorities. Now, you might argue that, be that as it may, this does not border on the topic of today, but I'm trying to paint a picture of a violent society that is prone to taking actions against foreigners, whether warranted or not. And if Nigerians were involved in such criminal activities, the rules of economics clearly state that if there is no supply, if there is no demand, there will be no supply. So if you don't ask for the drugs, there will be no need to give you drugs. So we need to come back to the roots of the matter, remembering the One African sentiments, the Ujamaa of Kwame Nkrumah and Pan-African spirit, that we need to come together. It's not just about me or you being South African or I being Nigerian, one Niger. We've come beyond such sentiments. We've had common backgrounds. We've been through the slave trade. We've been through colonialism. We realize that these things can twist our mental psyche. They can twist the way we think. But that's not enough. That is not enough for us as a people, of color, to come together and be experiencing such situations.
Okay, so you've done a bit to share your opinion and your thoughts about what's going on in South Africa, but we understand that while we preach the agenda of Pan-Africanism, Nigeria it's important to rub the relationship between Nigeria as a country and our economy and the South African economy. We understand that South Africa for quite a while was under the
white apartheid regime,
where they were having problems with controlling their resources, which ended when they got their full liberty and apartheid was abolished, with freedom and rights being conferred to the black population that saw Mandela becoming their first black president. Okay, we also understand that this recent social media sensation about the crisis in South Africa brought about a lot of things. We started seeing documents of solid details of Nigeria's contribution toward the fight for apartheid and for South Africa to get much more freedom, or the freedom they are enjoying. We also understand that South Africans, okay, they seem to have a problem. Their livelihood, we're talking about their economy, we're talking about their jobs. But what we understand, like one of the notable South Africans, Trevor Noah, said, Trevor Noah was saying something about the fact that Nigerians are not your problem. He didn't just talk about Nigerians, he said the foreigners are not your problem. You are talking about resource control. You're talking about that in South Africa, a foreigner doesn't have a right to get lands. The most you can do is to pay for rent. So you can't exactly say that foreigners are the ones taking away your lands. He's saying that your lands, about 70% or greater than 70% of them are being controlled by the white population, because they're the ones who have the farms, control the lands, and what have you. Okay, he said you guys have refused to get an education, right? You refused to be educated. You are waiting for a government to give you almost everything, even years after you've gotten independence. So the foreigners are not exactly your problem. What jobs they are getting? They are businessmen selling, doing one or two things. Now, if a businessman migrates to South Africa and is selling, it means he'll be paying your
He'll be paying tax, he'll be paying
rents and all those things.
He'll be putting money back into the economy. And we know that Nigerians are not. They prefer to put their capital in foreign countries. They don't bring it backwards. So there is no capital flight.
Now, we also understand that one of the reasons why Nigerians are migrating to South Africa is because of the economic realities in Nigeria. We understand that Nigerians are experiencing quite difficult times, and also things are not so good. South African economy is buoyant. We're having the exchange rate between Nigeria and South Africa more than 8 times. So it's more lucrative to go to South Africa, apply your job. I mean, even as a doctor, as a businessman, or an artisan, whatever you are,
even music
better.
Videos.
Yes.
They go there. Until recently, the Big Brother Nigeria series was
hosted in South Africa. Okay.
So
we also understand that both countries have benefited from the bilateral and mutual arrangement that existed between the two of them. We see big industries and companies owned by South Africans thriving very well in the Nigerian market. Nigerian population creates large and robust market for multi-choice, DSTV, and also for
we are the most populous
MTN.
Black nation on the earth.
Okay.
So we are basically a consumer economy,
okay,
right?
But we want to relate. We want to understand that xenophobia is not particularly inherent in South Africans. Yeah, is it something that bothers each and every one of us? Is it possible that anybody at all can have an inclination to want to defend or feel threatened by foreigners? We understand that certain persons living within territories and at different particular points in time want to Is it something that is common? Relating it down to tribalism as a topic.
Yeah, we relate it back to tribalism,
racism in the Western societies,
to son of the soil syndrome. I mean, just because they are South Africans, and you might claim, oh yes, oh they are the only ones that could be xenophobic, but we are xenophobic too, because when you do not let someone who is not of your racial affiliation head a key district, a key institution in your state, in spite of the fact that the person is overly qualified. Like, I mean, it's everything, even within professions, it's nothing new. It happens every day. So
no matter your qualification, you can't get certain jobs in certain states.
If you don't know who is who, and
if you are particularly not from that region, state. The indigenization policy, indigenization policy like equivalent in economics was supposed to protect the interest of local indigenes, give them little privileges, but here and there. But the problem is that when you begin to create restrictions based on confer undue advantages on people who have not really merited it, then you create a culture of mediocrity. You don't expect them to try for more, and they now begin to feel entitled because it is their rights. Is it a problem of only black societies? Because we want to understand that maybe in Western societies where we have the topic of racism, as well as racism, the concept is quite similar. Yeah, to the extent where we are having certain white persons who are not able to tolerate. Our time is up. We're getting our less, but we just want to ask for extra time, so we'll round this up. It's the discussion is just getting interesting. It's not, but we agree that black people, we are loud, we are rambunctious, so any problem we have is amplified tenfold. It's not necessarily that the whites do not have, because the whites have also been throughout history. If you've been like a Basque of India, if you were a Basque Italian, you were living in medieval Europe at that time, you were not considered to be a true citizen. If you were if you were Turkish and you were Muslim in medieval Europe, you were not considered to be a true citizen. You were seen as an outsider. But the thing is that somehow we let things escalate so badly in our climate, and then again slave trade and colonialism hasn't helped at all, because the mental states of each and every African hasn't healed. Even though you will say, oh, I don't really care about slave trade. So you're saying that there is still a residual effect? There's still there. It's like a backlash. Because if we're seeing that's the exact reaction to the violence by certain South Africans, if truly violence happened, because we're seeing that it then means that there's still a residual part of what happened in apartheid, where they had to come out, they had to fight, they had to kill police officers, white police officers, destroy things to get their independence. So, when they stayed for the residual effect is explained that after you've experienced such trauma, after a calm or peace, they want to look for opportunities to express that part of them. So, okay, now picking and cherry picking, Nigerians are doing business, they are taking our women, so we begin to attack them, fight like we did in the 90s before we got our apartheid. Okay, so now we've also explained that it's not just a South African problem. Nigeria at some point, to protect the interest of Nigerians and the Nigerian economy, did a movement against Ghanaians. And we understand that these persons, some of them were teachers, some of them were lecturers, they were all around. People were coming in from neighboring countries to send them out of the country. We've also related it to the tribalism issue, where there is an undue favorism and preference to one's own persons that are from one's own tribe. We've also related it to racism in the Western societies. Okay, now we'll talk about the American policy, where we have American for Americans, by Americans. Okay, we also have Trump being a major advocate for such policies, and many persons are giving him thumbs up for the kind of leader that he is. Where he's making efforts and policies to protect Americans and to give Americans control, to take back their society. Now, to what extent should Americans feel threatened that their jobs, their businesses are being taken by outsiders and foreigners, especially considering the fact that America is seen like no man's land, like the melting pot of all cultures? That is what America is. A country or society or economy that was built by the collective effort of persons who left their places of origin, country, to come for a better world, the new world. Put efforts, build the society, and then now many persons feel. Why we consider that is also the training thought behind the British exit. Theresa May stepped down this month, coincidentally in the month of May, because she could not follow through in her promise. So let Great Britain exit the EU, the European Union, which is for better control of the border, because they do not feel comfortable with the fact that of persons from neighboring countries and foreigners coming in, the same fear or threat. But because it's Western societies, we feel they package it in the embellish with policy making. Yes, they use a more strategic route. Now they're not using violence; they're using targeted policies. They are using laws which cannot be. Even the sentiment of building a wall to stop the Mexicans from crossing. Because Mexicans are committing crime, pushing drugs. The same excuse in South Africa. South Africans are saying Nigerians are the ones pushing drugs, exploiting their people, raping their women, and what have you. I feel now because of that, a president that is recognized as the number one president in the world has gone so petty that he wants to build walls around to stop persons from coming in.
I mean, it's if large-scale civilized societies that we look up to here in Africa,
model countries,
in quotes, can take such measures to protect their indigenous countries, so their indigenous interests, how much us? But I feel that xenophobia in Africa and
let's
violence...
talk about a way forward. What do you think is the best
I think the continent as a whole needs to heal, the country as a whole needs to heal, the people as one people need to heal. We need to recognize...
education, talking about poverty, because you won't have people feeling threatened
if they have the economic willpower to do what needs to be done.
If they have jobs, if they are employed, and to have jobs and employment, it needs more than education. So if government take more responsibility in educating their persons, they won't have this problem, they won't have this threat, right?
Yes.
Okay. If there are more, infrastructure. It even goes to say that even foreigners who come in will be more educated because opportunities for education
they are bound.
And we understand that education brings refinement, though it's not absolute. Because you see, even educated persons
literate but not educated. So let's put that out there.
Very absurd thing. So when we talking about African society, our poverty, make our economy better, create more jobs,
if we have the right
and education, persons to be better. I mean, mentally and the kind of things they have the capacity to do. Okay, we also talk about the fact that we have to teach our persons to be more human. I think the solution to most of our problems is our inherent humanity. If persons can understand that I'm human and you are human, there's nothing different between us. Okay, even blacks, Nigerians, we are bothered and threatened about what expatriates. The Nigeria militant movement saw these black persons kidnap white expatriates because they feel that they are taking their jobs. I mean, you are not educated, you can't possibly...
No, it wasn't about them taking their jobs, it's about them living the dream on their own soil, where their farms were being polluted, their rivers, they couldn't fish, they were being prone to cancers, they didn't have the right environment, which boils down to social framework. If there is the right infrastructure, we have the right connect. Welfare, precisely, very important. Health welfare is very key.
And African governments do not take these matters very seriously. They let it thrive, it burns, and then before you know it becomes a national and global scale problem.
Or one school. You need working frameworks, because where things work, you could see the future, you could have hope.
Build working societies, education,
and
eradicate poverty,
humans.
And encourage persons to be better humanity.
True African barriers.
I think that will be all for now. We've had
a really exhausting discussion. It's not as long as we would have liked, but time is not on our side.
So we'll be signing out now.
Yours truly, Molen, wishing you a happy independence.
Daniel Faithful, we are wishing you a happy Independence Day from the Calabar University Medical Students Association, debate, public speaking, essay writing, and quiz club. So
DPEQ something. Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.